welcome everybody here today. The time is now 6:08 for the Brunswick Housing Authority Board meeting for March 25th, 2024. We're going to start out with the invocation by our Vice Chair.
Abba Father, we thank you for this time and this moment. We thank you for the Brunswick Housing Authority, all the staff, all the leadership, our residents. And I pray that you bless this meeting today, that we accomplish what we need to accomplish, and that we have clarity and wisdom. In your name I pray, amen.
All right. Entertain a motion for approval of the agenda with any necessary changes.
I move to add item 2C, a discussion of the recommendations for HVAC and window replacements in AMP1 prior to the CFP funding deadline.
Second.
Been properly motioned and seconded that we add a discussion on the HVAC for AMP1 to the agenda. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Any other?
And I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Is that how you need it, Mr. Weed? Okay. All right. It's been motioned and properly second to approve the agenda with the necessary amendment. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Okay, item C, approval of minutes from the March meetings.
I move to approve the meeting minutes for the work session meeting held on March 13th, 2024, the executive session held on March 13th, 2024, and the special call meeting held on March 15th, 2024.
Second.
It's been a motion and properly second to approve the minutes as outlined for March, all the March meetings thus far. All in favor, raise your right hand. Right, so we'll move to new business. Commissioner Hayes.
The resident council for this month, we did do our youth violence seminar. I sent videos from that seminar to everybody. I hope y'all enjoyed it. We had a good time. We did face painting. Our next one will be April the 7th from 2 to 4. It's going to be in Brooklyn Homes. And they are asking Mr. Reggie about the card for April.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and get that card for you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, April again. What date again?
April the 7th from 2 to 4.
Sunday. That's the first Sunday, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so.
What are they asking for? You say?
There's money that we allocated to fund the events has been issued incrementally per event through a Sam's gift card. And
Okay.
so I was just,
$375 per event.
uh-huh.
So I get the gift card, give it to her, she gives it
Okay.
We are currently working with McIntyre Court. They have their 5 people, so we'll move into the first phase of them getting their elections and everything done. So we'll basically start off with their bylaws. And the same goes for Glen Villa. We have 5 people there as well. So moving into the first stages. So my goal is within the next 3 months to at least have those 2 communities established, so that way we'll have 3 resident councils.
All right, that's excellent. Okay.
And that's pretty much it.
Did Commissioner Dobson, former Commissioner Dobson, is he a part of that?
He has not reached out. I tried to give him a call. He didn't answer. So.
Okay, I guess he's still going.
He has 30 days to respond once we put the letters on the doors, so maybe he'll be a part of that response and we can put him on the ballot.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, commissioners?
Are those by amp or are they by
Community.
community? Would it happen to be that all three
Are from the same amp,
are they? Are they from different amps?
different amps.
Each one is from a different amp?
I believe so. Glenvilla is from a different. Yeah.
So, well, help me understand what an amp is.
An amp is, I think it's three communities. They
It's
divided up into 3 amps, I guess.
it's a acronym that HUD gave for managing your properties on a smaller scale as opposed to doing it on a larger scale. It stands for Asset Management Property. It's the grouping of the communities into smaller developments so that they can be managed easier by fewer people.
The thought originally wasn't it to push people out from central office into the amps, and so you had site coordinators on premises as opposed to everybody being in this building.
And they did it to all housing authorities. I want to say there's 3 in the nation that don't operate out of amps, and they had to write this whole justification to HUD about why they operated better not being in amps, and I think all of them ended up being because they were just too small.
So, then we have 3 amps. Okay.
Consisting of roughly 200 units apiece. The smallest one would be amp 3, which has McIntyre Court and Little Brooklyn only, and that's like 172 units. And you got amp 1 with 218 units, and amp 2 with 201 units.
Okay, who is amp 1?
Amp 1 is Glenvilla and Hopkins Homes.
And then who's in 2?
Amp 2 would be McIntyre Court and Brooklyn A. That's 1 through 34.
And
Sorry, that's amp 3.
Mhm.
That's amp 3, and it's always confused like that. That's amp 3. Amp 2 would be Brooklyn Homes B, 35 through 100. Mercer, Alabama, and Abbott Andrews.
it would be Brooklyn B,
Mhm.
Mercer, and Albert Andrews.
Yes, sir.
It's 2.
It's 2. That's amp 2.
All right.
And I do that 9 times a week because I want to go in order, starting in 1. Yeah.
Okay, and give me the numbers again. 1, how many is in amp 1?
Amp 1 is 218. That's 100 in Hopkins, 118 in Glenville. Well,
Units?
217 because there's a site office over there. So there's
217.
there's 99 in Hopkins, 118 in Glenville.
And then how many in 2?
Amp 2 is McIntyre Court at 135, and then 34 units in Brooklyn, so that's 169.
Okay.
Amp 2, oh goodness, I did it again. That's amp 3. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So McIntyre Court in Brooklyn is amp 3.
Brooklyn
and how many
8.
is in there?
Brooklyn 8, and that's 34 and 35, 169.
So the annex is Brooklyn A?
No, it's separate.
No, I mean, I understand that, but,
No, the annex is neither. Brooklyn A is the part of Brooklyn Homes that's by the Boys and Girls Club, across the street from McIntyre
that's
Court.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but the annex is actually on the other side of Brooklyn B, by the nursing home.
Yeah, that's what we call the annex.
Oh, I
Yeah, that's
got
what
you.
we call the annex.
Okay, so Brooklyn B, but we include that, the annex in that, we don't? So, which amp is that in, the annex?
It's a locally owned unit. It's a locally owned unit.
So it's not included in the amp?
No,
That's the only one?
not for.
We got
The
some
one in
over
Hopkins.
by Hawkins on,
Hopkins Annex as well, and then Brooklyn.
so they not included in the amp.
No, sir.
Okay, but, so, how many units in the Brooklyn B, Mercer, and Albert Andrews? That's AMP two, correct?
65, 84, 51. So that's 201. That's 201.
I'll cheat and use a calculator. What are the three numbers?
8, 1, 5.
65, 84, and
Yeah, 201,
65 plus 84 plus
51.
51.
200.
Yeah,
208.
284 plus
That's 200.
200.
200.
That's 200, yeah.
alright. What's the number?
200.
200.
200. You gotta always subtract the site office.
Alright,
It's there, but it's not there.
and the AMP three was 160 what?
169.
Alright. So, the council, Commissioner Hayes, that you are part of directly, which AMP is that in? That's in AMP one? No,
Currently
two.
goes into 2 amps because we did Little Brooklyn along with Big Brooklyn. So A and B are included in that number. And there's 100 units total.
99.
Well,
Yeah,
minus
subtract the
the
site office.
site office.
Okay, I'm back confused. The council
Mhm,
that you're a part of
mhm.
includes what units? What AMP?
It's a part of.
It's a part of 2 different amps. Reason being is because Little Brooklyn is over in McIntyre Court, making that a part of AMP 3. And Big Brooklyn, Mercer, Altam, and Abbott are a part of AMP 2.
Try to keep all of Brooklyn home together.
Right.
Okay.
So when we did our elections, when we passed out flyers, both parts of that community are included.
And without including that smaller part of Brooklyn and something else, it would have been harder for y'all to get a council going over in that community. Huh? In that one. If you wouldn't have left it with Brooklyn or included it with McIntyre, you only got 34 units over there.
Yeah, we just didn't want to do it because we wanted the name of ours to be Brooklyn Homes Resident Council.
And
So-
not A or B.
Right.
Yeah. That's confusing.
It is. So we just went ahead and included. And then the number, it's 100 versus what, 70 something.
Yeah, 66 and 34.
Yeah. So the numbers worked out better for us to include them as well.
Okay, and then the McIntyre Court would be included in the AMP three,
Correct.
and then Glen Villa is AMP one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay.
So since we'll have advisory councils that are in each AMP, isn't there another layer of
The overall, I think
yeah.
it.
That's
Once
the-
you all
that's
get
the
the
RAD.
when you all get the
That's the
individual.
RAD. That's the RAD, Residence Advisory Board. So you have one from each
AMP?
community, pretty much.
Each
Right.
community or each
It'll be
AMP?
like 5. It's like 5 of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we would still need to get a couple more councils together before we could get.
No, not necessarily, because the rabbits are being together. That's just an advisory council.
Right.
That's it. And they come, one time a year to look over the 5-year plan, capital plan, and they, thumb up, thumb down. That you may have some people that's in the council that may be represented in the RAD.
Got it.
It's called the what now?
The RAB, the Resident Advisory Board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
And is that for us or for the council? Advisory board.
We've had that before. There were, you
Yeah,
have
council.
to have that to approve the 5-year plan.
Plan.
And so input from residents, that was, and so that predated the
Council.
councils for that resident advisory board. But that you could do a jurisdictional council, couldn't, I mean, that,
Right,
which would be different from the RAB.
and that's when we have all 6 communities organized. Then we could have like that one umbrella one. And so when we go to conferences or whatever, we'll get all our presidents, and they may go to one, treasurers, and so forth.
I think that's what I was thinking of. And that's by community, not by AMP. So just because we have one from each
AMP it
AMP, it doesn't get us there.
Right,
But we now have representation from each AMP, which is huge.
we're
That's
getting
great.
closer.
so and I see where Mr. Collins going. So I just wanted to add this because I don't know if you know it, and I don't know how y'all law is written. But the way HUD looks at it, they, true enough, we are classified by AMPs, but they are identified by one community. AMP 1 is identified as Glenvilla. When you look at the 5-year plan, it says Glenvilla, and when it says Glenvilla, it means AMP 1, Glenvilla and Hopkins Homes. When you see AMP 3, you'll see McIntyre Court. That's McIntyre Court, Little Brooklyn Homes. When you see AMP 2, you'll see just Brooklyn Homes. You won't see Abbott, you won't see Mercer, you'll see just Brooklyn Homes. And that's how they identify it. So you may have what you need.
Which 3 do we have?
You got one from each AMP. The identifiers.
Oh yeah, I guess.
From a
You would have
Red,
Glenvilla,
Red,
McIntyre, and Brooklyn. You would have the identifiers. Even on an inspection, we just recently had inspections. There was an inspection for Brooklyn Homes, but that's an inspection for AMP 2. Every property over there is inspected.
Yeah, that's how they see us.
Yeah, and
Just
that's
that
how the law and that's how the regulations are written for the. Yeah.
So you may have what you need for that.
Can, it may be too late for us to add maintenance report. Can you wrap that in when we talk about the
Okay.
HVAC?
Cool. Sorry to take us down a rabbit hole there.
No. I started it. But I want to be clear because somebody asked me about this stuff. We all of us should know it. It shouldn't just be in Commissioner Hayes' head and the staff. So, anything else, Ms. Hayes, you want to add about the council?
No, that's it.
Okay. All right. Let's move to the item B, the write-offs. Bradley, do we have anybody on?
Yeah.
Diego is on the Zoom currently, and there's also a call that I can only imagine that's Mr. Basin.
Okay.
If there's no name on it, I can't say for sure.
Can they say something? We can't see them from up there on the big screen.
Can you hear me?
We can.
We can now.
Okay, so the write-offs for March totaled out to be $9,241.20. And we're just asking to approve it.
Has that gone down? I don't remember.
It has gone down.
Okay. What was it last month?
I think last month
Last
was
month was like
exceptionally
I think-
Yeah.
It was exceptionally what?
low,
Like
but I think it's in my tenure, I think been close to 20,000 a month, 15 to 20.
Okay. So this is more of the normal.
Yeah, that's a
It just depends on the damages of the unit when the tenant leaves.
Okay.
or if they have a current running balance or anything that they're leaving behind.
All right. Commissioners, any questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
That's the motion that we approve the pre-generational write-offs.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded that we approve the pre-generational write-offs as presented. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Okay, we move to item C. Mr. Williams, you're gonna explain this to us.
Going with HVACs first because it'll lead into the second part.
Let's make sure, can we make sure that that's Mr. Baisden?
I want to see if they can talk, but the number that's on here is one of the Zoom's numbers. I don't hear anything coming from them though, so I can't say for sure.
Can we text him to see?
Not to-
305-776
phone number, then that's my phone number. Good
Four-
evening, everyone.
4766.
Yeah, that's
That's
him.
him.
You just said
That's it. It's just-
Oh, okay. All right, because we do have a executive session items.
Okay.
Mr. Williams, go ahead.
So, for one, well, either, regardless of the second part of this, I have a quote together for HVAC replacements and AMP1, which is Glenville and Hoppy Homes. I put that on there just to be clear. So I asked for a proposal to replace the AC units over in that area, which was a part of the scope of work in our 5-year plan, set for May of this year. We had another fund that was set to expire for window replacements in Glenville as well, which took a little bit longer than expected to get the documents together. So I was bringing this one anyway to seek approval to go into contract on this in May. So we gave a little time to look it over. But what I received was a quote to replace every single AC unit in Glenville and Hopping Homes. They are the only units left in housing that run off of R22 gas, which is obsolete. They don't make it anymore. You can get it, but it's like $1,000 a drum. Was $1,000 for 25 pounds of it. And the units are over 20 years old. We replace probably about 15, 16 a year. And they are deteriorating. They don't have the same efficiency that they used to have. When you take the coils out, they break apart in your hands, and they need to go. Currently, when we replace one, we spend right at $1,900 just to get the indoor coil, because we get one that we can swap in to make the change out easier, and an outside unit. We spend about $1,900 and maybe 5 to 6 hours replacing it. So the quote that I received to replace most of these units, none of them are higher than $4,628 with the materials and labor. But they are not just replacing the condensers and the AC coils. They're going to replace the condensers, the AC coils, the air handlers, return grills, thermostats, AC registers, their breakers. They're going to tear out the entire system and put it back in. We've had it done before. Usually run about $65 to change out the entire unit, air handler, everything. So it usually costs us about $65. But this would replace all 200 and 218 units over in this area, which we don't have to replace all 218, so the contract price would go down. But I asked for an overall price of what it would cost to replace all 218, and then a line item cost of what it would cost per unit, so that I can adjust the price as needed if it came to that.
All right, makes sense to me. Commissioners, any questions around this?
So this is identified in the 5-year plan. We have capital funding to do it out of the 5-year plan
Yes, sir.
or out of the HUD allocation.
How long would it take? When would they start, and how long would it take? Because it's gonna get hot here, even though we're
Yeah, I
in
know.
fall season right now.
I know, and those details would be worked out once we figure out how many we're gonna do. But they should be able to do between 3 and 5 a day. Should be able to do between 3 and 5 a day. To get the right crew in. Starting, I'm not 100% certain how long it's gonna take them to get this many units. But I mean, I'd like to start right at the beginning of the summer, because that's the bulk of the AC calls right there. They keep the summertime come, overtime hours go up for AC calls. So that's the bulk of the calls right there. But I don't know. I don't have a projected start date as of yet.
Okay, yeah, we can. If there's a way for us to get started in May, that would be good. Because
Yeah, I'm certain Ryan probably can get it started in May. It wouldn't take but 15 to 20 of them, and he could probably go for 2 or 3 weeks and get
Right.
another shipment in. Plus, it's gonna come in storing that many units at one time. You're gonna have you're gonna need a lot of space. It's big.
yeah, we did right because we did.
Yeah.
A lot of security too.
Our warehouse is here on this property, or do we have?
Oh,
a
you
warehouse?
can't. It ain't gonna fit in there. No, we have 3 of them, but it ain't gonna fit. They won't fit in any of them.
Okay.
They won't fit in any of them. We have 2 containers that we could possibly lease to them as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we have 2 containers, and I see if Ryan interested in using the containers. Well, one of them, because one is full of refrigerators. The other one, I got a couple of stoves in there, but.
Okay.
And I probably would prefer that they kept them in that container here, because it's in the gate.
Things gotta be
It's in the
high
gate.
security.
Yeah, you gotta secure them real good.
You don't want to have too many holding.
Well, my thing is, I don't want something to happen to them,
Yeah.
and then we gotta wait till some other ones come. I mean, we'll have insurance, so they should have.
Yeah,
insurance.
yeah.
But that doesn't help the families when the AC is out in July.
They also got to. Well, nah. It's usually a one-day thing. It's usually a one-day thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's usually a one-day thing. It don't. Yeah, I'll specify that to them too. I don't really start unless you're gonna be able to finish it that day.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioners, anything else? Otherwise, entertain a motion.
Is there any reason? How many units are we actually looking at?
$200.
And there's no reason to think that
200. I would like to do the 218 so that we get the old handlers out that we done put in, because we have some that have changed over to 410. It's probably about maybe 20 or 30 of them, and then maybe 2 that have new handlers. Matter of fact, 48 Glenville has a new air handler. It's not new, but it has a 410 air handler in it. And 82 Hopkins also has a new air handler. That one is like 2 years old, so I don't think they're gonna. I don't even think I'm gonna let them bother that one. Paul Davis did that one when they did remediation. That unit got completely put back together, so that one actually has a new air handler unit. But I would like to get those old air handlers out of there. They old just like the equipment, insulation and duct board in them has seen 20 years worth of service already.
If we pulled all 219, 218, and there's 18 old ones that are still good, do we have a use for?
We keep them and put them in another property if
They go out with the old?
yeah. Same thing with the ones that came out of Mercer, because they had to replace those over there. We pumped them down. We kept them over here. We probably got about 2 left. We've installed them in other places where we've had compressors go out now.
Okay. Commissioners?
Questions next?
Yeah, can I get?
Oh, warranty.
You said warranty?
Warranty.
Don't go throwing that in at the end.
I'm sorry, I got it written down over here to put on there. So there's a 2-year warranty on the condenser. If anything happens to the condenser, and this is exclusive to the contractor, you have 2 years. If anything happens to the compressor on the outside units, no questions asked. They send you a new unit. They send you a new one. You get rid of the old one. There's a 1 year on parts and labor from the contractor, and then there's 10 years from the manufacturer.
All right.
There's essentially another 12-year warranty on that.
And this is all new thermostats as well?
All new thermostat, everything. AC registers, return grills, thermostats, float switches, breakers, condensers, air handlers.
Great.
All that for $14. $7,000.
Yeah.
It's not all that.
Well, I
You
mean,
don't get all that.
it's 200 units though.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I could use a new AC. Throw a few extra on there. Kidding for the public meeting. Entertain a motion.
yes.
I move to approve the recommendation for the replacement of all HVAC units 218 in AMP1.
Second.
It's been properly motioned and seconded to approve all the HVAC units in AMP1. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, go get them. Anything else you want to share around maintenance?
Second part.
Yeah.
Windows.
The second
okay.
part of that. The second part of that. Okay.
All right.
So we got that part approved. So the second part of that would be to I also make a recommendation that we modify the 5-year plan. Not even really modify. Substitute the work. So we substitute the HVAC replacements in Glenville for the window replacements in Glenville, so as to obligate the funds for that was slated for the window replacement. We obligate them with the HVAC replacements, and then you obligate the funds from the HVAC replacements with the window replacements, because the solicitation out now for the window replacements, which was slated for the first action, and HVACs would have been the second action for the year. But I included in there this excerpt from the Capital Fund Handbook, which says you can substitute any work from the same approved 5-year plan if you feel it would best suit your needs to make sure your funds get obligated.
Up on the budget revision.
You don't need a budget revision for it either. If you look at amendments without HUD approval.
Okay.
So you could have, if something came up and it was in the 5-year plan and it was more exigent, but it was 3 years down the road, but you needed to take care of it now, you could substitute it in now and they did it because they understand needs change. And the windows terribly need to come out, but the bids won't come back for that until April the 11th. So sometime, probably at the work session, I should have a recommendation on that. as well at the work session for next month.
So we're just making sure that the most in need for our amps right now is the HVAC, and we're just switching the funding
Yes,
to
sir.
take care of that right now, and
Yes,
then
sir.
we'll have the funding for the windows by the time that gets in.
Yeah, we already have the funding for both.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Let's switch it up when we're doing.
Yeah, we just change them around to meet the obligate deadline, because we applied for an extension on this first, on the one for window replacement. We applied for an extension, but we haven't heard a response back yet. So to make sure that we get it obligated by the deadline, whether they issue an extension or not, and we just substitute the work for the HVACs.
And that's what we were talking about at that special call meeting.
All right.
So, when would an amendment need to be made? When are the deadlines?
One is today.
Yeah, that's
Love
what
that.
we had.
That's
the
what
special call.
when he had the special call.
The
meeting, and
one the windows are currently in is
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, we applied for an extension because it was taking a little bit longer to get the blueprints together, essentially, for rebuilding those windows over there. Other than that, it would have been back on time.
So the windows and the HVACs are both in the 5-year plan.
They're both in the same 5-year plan. It's an older one, but they both in the same 5-year plan. When those funds came in, see, we're looking at 2020 and 2022 funds, which are no longer in your current plan anymore, because those funds were granted so long ago that those years have fallen off of those plans, but we still been holding on to them because they had so many that they couldn't spend.
And both This handbook is tricky to read. Oh, I'm going through the requirements. So the HVAC
Is 2022,
is 2022.
and Glenville Windows was 2020.
Okay. And both of those are on a,
They were in the same.
They were in the
5-year.
same 5-year plan.
and there's a budget line item for both of them.
Yes, sir.
And we can identify those budget line items.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're 32 of the requirements.
Did we ever get extension one time?
They granted auto extensions on it because of COVID.
They're 20 because of COVID.
Yeah.
It's been that money. We're in another 5 years. We don't want to lose money.
Must have an OAD that meets the time frame of the capital fund grant to which the work item is to be moved. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah,
We're
we
good
still
there.
in it. Yeah,
And
and we don't.
as
have
an open grant, we don't have a pre-audit date, so we're good on all four. Okay, so we would need 2 amendments. We would need an amendment to move the windows to the
next one,
capital allocation,
2022.
2022 allocation. And we'd need an amendment to move the HVACs from 2022 to
To
2020.
2020.
Look at that. I can
All
think
right.
a little bit. Don't read so good, but I can think.
So move.
Ben, you comfortable with that? Mr. Baisden? Pass the smell test?
Yes, we've been going through the numbers and the back and forth all of last week, trying to make sure we were in a position where we could identify and obligate and utilize all the funds before the expiration date.
This is great. This is some really creative funding. This is very, very good. Forward thinking.
Yeah. All right. Is there a second? Or
Do you
you
need
gonna
to-
make a
Yeah.
actual motion? Go ahead.
So, I move that we amend our 5-year action plan without HUD approval for to place the AMP1 HVAC replacement in fiscal year 2020. So allocate capital allocation and move the AMP1 window replacement to the 2022 capital allocation. Is that right? Got it. All right.
Second.
It's been properly motioned and second that we move the HVAC amp capital allocation to the 2020 fiscal year, and that we move the replacement of the windows to the 2022. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. General maintenance stuff.
Well, we had inspections for 2 of the amps. Was it last week? Last week had inspection for 2 of the amps.
Which ones?
Amp 2 and amp 1. Yeah, amp 2 and amp 1. Amp 3 was the exception that did not have an inspection this time. It was our first Inspire inspection of record or anything else otherwise. There was some issues that came up with that inspection, and there's some other improvements that we'll have to sit down and talk about making within the units. I think Mr. Basin talked about some of it in the meeting last week. We're gonna have a need for smoke detectors in the units and some GFI locations, but I'm gonna have to visit every single unit in public housing and check every single location where there needs to be a GFI and figure out if over the years they've put them there. Some places they have. Surprisingly enough, Glenville has GFIs most of the places where they need
And
them.
GFI are the sockets around water
Yes, sir.
that's like in the kitchen and bathroom.
Kitchen, bathroom, breaker, and you could do breakers, which may be the easier way to go in the Glenville community, because the only place that's not GFI protected that I know of is the bathroom light fixtures have an electrical plug on it, and technically it's within 6 feet of a water source. It's old stuff, so we got hit for probably about 6 of them. So yeah, we either gonna have to GFI protect the circuit that runs that light, or
Can we
replace
just
the light.
remove the lights?
We could replace the light, but if where is it? Somewhere else, it's the only plug in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only plug in the bathroom in some places.
They don't make one with a GFI in the light.
No, we just put one in the breaker.
Yeah.
We put one in the breaker, or either run a leg off of it and drop a GFI receptacle down on the wall, which is what they did in most places. Abbott Andrews, I think they ran into that problem and they wire molded a receptacle under the light and got rid of that light fixture with the plug on it. And washing machine boxes, which I'm planning on appealing that one, because the standard says that any outlets that service a major appliance do not have to be GFI. That's refrigerator, washing machine, dryers, stoves, dishwashers, regardless of proximity to a water source. I have an idea of what AMP 1 scored. And there are a few appeals that I plan to make, but according to Mr. Bays in the appeal process, they are backed up over a year and a half. If you appeal, it'll be forever before you ever hear anything about it. So AMP1 would have scored a 59.5. The score of 59.5, passing score would have been a 60. But the only other thing about that is still failed. It still failed because with this inspection, you can only lose 30 points within the unit portion of your inspection. And all 41.5 points were lost within the unit. But there were some deficiencies that shouldn't have been deficiencies, and a few smoke detectors that were taken down, which normally wouldn't be non-scoring, but when they are down, they create a second deficiency, which is exposed electrical conductors. And that is a scoreable defect, and it's 2.1 points for every time that happens. A couple of plates that was off. And a few, the inspector, he put his tester in a couple of outlets that were GFI protected, and they read open grounds. So that's a 2.1 point hit. He probably got about 7 or 8 of those. And but their standard again says a GFI outlet that reads not grounded is not a defect. So on appeal, I think if I get all of my appeals, I think AMP1 will pass. I get about 12 points back. And I got another.
So what about 2?
AMP2's inspection is not in HUD's system yet. We had the inspection, it's not in the system. So I wasn't able to tally the points. I wasn't able to tally the points, but their score is going to be worse because when the inspector came through, he had a tester that was no good. So he tested like 10 units, and we picked up like 17 or 18 defects, and then we found like, man, there got to be something wrong with your testing. So we went and got one of ours, and yeah, his tester was bad. So appeal all of those as well at 2.1 points apiece. And I think they probably end up closer to passing than AMP1 was.
So what happens with a failing score?
You carry a failing score unless you have below a 30. If you have below a 30, then it's it's an automatic referral to for corrective action. If you score between, if you fail and you score, and you don't score below a 30, if you do that 2 consecutive years, then you go to HUD for corrective action. So if you fail below 59, then for 2 consecutive years you go to HUD.
Do we know when the inspections are coming?
No, sir. Oh, that was, yeah, you're supposed to get 28 days. They gave us 14. Not that that should matter anyway. But no, you don't know when they coming. There's still one lingering inspection, and like I said, Mr. Bazin came and he may have talked about the need for doing some upgrades in the units with the smoke detectors and GFI locations for the most part.
And did he say something about water heaters?
Water heaters, yeah, we're having trouble with water heaters right now. Left and right. Bursting left and right.
Is it the water heater manufactured? Or do we need to switch where we're getting them from, or what?
No, they were all put in at one time. They were all put in at one time.
Oh, okay.
They're just too old now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they too old now.
That's a capital.
Yeah, it was a modernization that they went through in 12.
So how many of those do we need? I need to replace all of them. Okay.
Yeah, probably about 500.
Is that in the 5-year plan?
No. I need to go in when we do it this year. Definitely go in when we do it this year.
Okay.
So I could start getting that done in phases at least. But yeah, smoke detectors, gonna need them in every bedroom. GFIs is the bigger of the deals, and the reason for that is because AMP3 has not been inspected yet. That defect is under deferred scoring until January the 1st. So if AMP3 gets inspected after January the 1st, Any location that is not a GFI where there needs to be a GFI, it'll be a point deduction. 2.1 points. So whenever I start, I'm gonna start in not amp 1, amp 3. When I start, I'm gonna start in amp 3 and figure out what GFI location. Smoke detectors, they have to be in every bedroom, but completing the paperwork on that is the worst part about that. It took me probably about 4 days to submit all of the mitigation paperwork from those defects in one amp. Like I said, the second amp, their inspection still isn't there yet. But yeah, you gotta, when you go back, you gotta submit the work order, the pictures of where you completed it, what time you completed it, and everything. For 24-hour fixes. And that's what smoke detectors will fall under. But GFIs will be scoreable, so yeah, as soon as possible, I need to start working on this GFI thing in amp 3. Figuring out where I need them and where I don't need them. So that when they get inspected, we can they'll have a better chance at scoring well. But outside of that, next year, I think the score's actually gonna look pretty decent next year. If people leave smoke detectors up, your score's gonna look fine. They really streamlined that to focus on the things that affect people's health and safety the most. Out of they inspected 60 units. We had 1 unit with a what they call mold-like substance issue in it. So and that's any elevated levels of mold-like colored substances within a unit. There was 1. So they really focused in on health and safety, stuff that was gonna hurt people. And I think that inspection process has actually made it easier to focus in on units and the condition of your units. It's gonna be really important and really big going forward, and I think it's a good thing for the residents that they did that. They had it where you had to spend so much time on the outside because you could fail an inspection literally from the outside. And they took that out. And I think it's gonna benefit the residents, the way that they changed that inspection.
Okay.
What would it take to get AMP 3 GFIs and smoke detectors? We don't know when the inspection will be, but it hadn't happened yet.
Yeah, and it hasn't happened yet, but and I got a feeling it's gonna be after July, so I'm gonna have to have those GFIs done. Authority wide, I did the numbers on it, and smoke detectors we can install in house. They easy enough to do. They was looking at about, we needed 1,350 total smoke detectors, and they average out at like $41 a piece. So they range from $25 to $52. I average it out, and so we was looking at spending right at $62,000 on smoke detectors, and that would cover all of public housing, every single bedroom in public housing.
But the 10-year ban.
And it has to have one that's a 10-year battery smoke detector. Yes, ma'am.
So, well, maybe it's 3 questions. The people that didn't have their smoke detector up, did they get fined?
Should have.
But I beg to differ. Reason being is because, like, I'm always tempted to take mine down because it constantly beeps. And like you said, work orders for smoke detectors have been put on the back burner because of everything else that's going on, which is understandable. But I was told that if you have a smoke detector downstairs and upstairs, as long as the one upstairs is working, it's not like an emergency for them to come out and do the one downstairs. Is that so?
Never true. Smoke detectors are always an emergency if they are beeping, and you must have one on the upper level and the lower level.
Gotcha.
That was always the rule, that you had to have one on every sleeping quarter, every level of sleep, every level of the residence.
Gotcha.
And that's fire code.
Okay. Leading into my 3rd question, Is it because we only spend $41 that, you know, this happens? Because I've only been in this unit for 2 years, and like 6 times I've had the same smoke detector going off for no reason at all. And they come and change the battery. I think sometimes the battery is just a reused battery, or maybe it's the coils on the inside of the smoke detector that need to be replaced.
So here is what has happened to kind of alleviate the issue of people taking smoke detectors down because they are beeping. We can no longer use smoke detectors that take batteries. That's why you have to replace every single one of them. They have to be 10-year sealed battery smoke detectors. So it won't be replacing any batteries.
Good.
If that smoke detector is beeping, we're going to have to replace the smoke detector.
Okay.
They got rid of it. You can't use smoke detectors that has a removable battery anymore.
So when did they do that? When was that done?
July 6, 2023.
Final rule.
Final rule.
So,
Final rule. But
so
what
it's just a matter of going through.
yeah, it's just a matter of going through and doing it.
Okay.
We didn't do it because it wasn't 100% certain whether they was going to leave it in there or not. And it was going to cost a whole lot it was going to cost a decent bit to do.
We didn't approve this last year. We talked about it.
We talked about it coming up, and
yeah.
I said when the final rule gets issued, they issued the final rule on July 9th last year. So yeah, no more 9-volt battery smoke detectors. They have to be sealed battery now.
So we're going to be getting rid of the beep really soon.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. But that smoke detector's supposed to be an emergency. We're supposed to come out on call for that.
Okay. Well, it's been on Langston's desk. I've emailed. I've did all the steps the residents are supposed to do to get it done. It
Yeah,
just
we're
hasn't been
supposed
done
to
yet.
come out on call for that.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? I do have something, but I'll ask it to Mr. Basin in executive session. Anything else around maintenance, 5-year plan? Y'all good? All right. Well, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motion and properly second. We go in executive session. All in favor, raise your right hand.
That stays on but doesn't record, is that right?